what time it is. Crack open that bottle of wine. Grab your favorite glass, pour a couple of fingers of scotch in it. Get that stick, light it, and blow. It's time to hang with Steel Sharpened Steel after dark.
Good evening, Sharpie. Oh, yeah. Anthony called it. We have a After Dark special tonight because we are celebrating the consummation of Faces by Leopards, because the leopards are eating faces. And that is what is happening today, and this is what we're going to talk about. So just wanting to bring everybody up to speed this week. Among the things that we've been watching have been the nominations and people who are seeking to be confirmed. Bobby Kennedy Jr., we have Kash Patel on deck. We've got Tulsi Gabbard, all of these people in their various clown cars and their clown shows. Have you been watching some of the footage of these confirmations, Jermaine?
I have, particularly yesterday, my frat, Senator Warnock of the great state of Georgia. He was grilling RFK yesterday. And there was a moment when he pretty much said, listen, I'm just going to read you your own words, RFK. And he sort of like just put it dead right in his face, things that RFK had alleged. He was likening, I want to say, either the CDC or the vaccinations to child pedophilia, trafficking, something like that. I forgot he like strung those two things together. But anyway, it was on record, and he had the transcript in his hand, and he read it verbatim to his face. And of course, RFK tried to, act as though he didn't remember what he said, or those things that he actually said on paper. He had no recollection as to how they got paper, i.e. in the hands of the great Senator Warnock. But yeah, he just, the whole entire confirmation with regards to RFK, they've just been pretty much calling things that he has said and done to the front. Everything that they have pretty much said to him, these things that there was no allegations, these things that came out of his mouth, these things he actually done. His Caroline, that's his daughter, cousin, Caroline Strasberg, is that his? Okay. She even wrote a letter to Congress. I mean, she did it on tape, actually. And she was pleading for them. She was like, this is like the same guy who used to have mice and something else. He used to like mice and guinea pigs, and he would like grind them up in a blender and feed them to hawks. Like, this is the same guy who did that as kids. So his mind has always been demented. So the fact that anyone would be serious enough to consider him to be head of the CDC, something that's so precious, it keeps us alive, that knowledge, it's beyond the pale for me. So if he gets confirmed, I wouldn't really know what to make of those decision makers in D.C. I really wouldn't, because no one has said anything to him that he hasn't already said. It's like a circus of his own, his past, just on front.
And this is, I don't know if you call it a surface thing or kind of a callous consideration, because he does have a medical condition. I can't imagine being, in this day and age, a credible leader in any capacity, especially in a presidential administration, where your voice sounds like that.
Yeah.
It always sounds like he's about to cry, or he can barely get anything out. And, spasmodic dysphonia is the formal name of the condition, but he just sounds like a crazy person who is smoking meth in Central Park. It's very difficult for me to believe that this is anything other than patronage. There is no reason for Robert Kennedy Jr., who basically is known for having a brainworm, doing heroin in college, killing bears, killing whales, and being a vax denier, should be leading up Health and Human Services. It just doesn't make any sense. There are any number of doctors who are right wing, like Ronnie Jackson, to me, who was Trump's personal physician and said he was the healthiest person who was going to live 200 years. Even Ronnie Jackson, by dint of the fact that he has a medical degree, is nominally a better nominee than Kennedy. Yeah. And everybody knows that Kennedy only got this nod because he decided to back Trump and dropped out of the independent race so that he wouldn't peel votes off of Trump. Yeah. That's literally the only reason he's doing this. Tulsi Gabbard, the only reason she's being put up is that she used to be a Democrat and she started talking crap about Kamala Harris and decided that she was going to back Trump. Hegseth, same thing. Kash Patel, creator of a movie that was debunked.
Yeah.
About the election of 2020. Up for the head of the FBI. And this is what we're doing. Hegseth shouldn't have been confirmed. The very fact that he barely got confirmed should have been a hint and a half. Mm-hmm. But the fact that all of these people, and these hearings are going on in the middle of a firestorm about the freezing and then unfreezing and all of this stuff with the federal grants process and everything else, and having a press secretary who is about as qualified as my left pinky toe, it just doesn't make sense. And at some point, and I think maybe Mitch McConnell started kind of creaking open the door for a permission structure to do this. Certainly, Susan Collins and Murkowski have set the stage that you don't have to play his games. You can be a co-equal branch. You can be somebody who has something to say to actually advise and counsel about these critical positions. And so you had the guy Vogt, who was put in for OMB. He was kind of the mastermind behind this freezing and then unfreezing and then the thawing and the refreezing. And you should never refreeze things. They say once it's been thawed, you don't freeze it again.
It's no good.
So these people are in the midst of this absolute insanity. And we are all sitting here watching like, how can anybody conceivably vote for any of this? How can you do it? How can you find it within yourself to make these monumental choices? And it's really disappointing. You have Grassley, who expressed some concerns, but then immediately hopped on a few emails about the investigation, like they were proof that there was some scandal in prosecuting Trump. They found that Trump was liable. He's no longer a president. He was keeping these documents. So he should be prosecuted. So,
with regards to the leader ahead of the CDC, generally they have some sort of a medical background always, right? I mean,
well, he's not. Okay, let's be clear. He's not for head of the CDC. He's for Health and Human Services.
Health and Human Services okay.
oversees the CDC.
But generally that position has some sort of a medical pedigree attached to it, right? Generally, or no?
Well, it's an administrative position. It certainly doesn't hurt for somebody to have some medical expertise, and it absolutely doesn't hurt for the person not to be a vaccine denier. He literally posted a picture of a little baby in the middle of like 500 needles, trying to indicate that this is how many needle jabs a baby gets as soon as they're born, which is horseshit. I mean, there are vaccinations, of course, but many of the vaccinations are combined. So there might be 3 vaccinations in one shot.
Yeah.
But babies aren't, it's not like they're pincushions in their first week of life. There are a couple of things, smallpox, of course. You got the MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella. This is a guy who was not vaccinated for measles and took it to another country that resulted in an outbreak. Mm-hmm. And he's still being interviewed right now for Health and Human Services. Now, the good news is that some Republicans are expressing their concerns about his vaccination past. And, we just got out of COVID and here's a guy who's saying all these crazy things. So
the whole generational context is helping us with that, because you would be hard pressed to find anybody in that room without that bump on their arm. You know what I'm saying? We had to line up outside the classrooms against, even your will when they jabbed you. My mom told me about that. I was a little bit after that. She says, but I forget what they were vaccinating kids for, but they didn't even tell the parents. They just told them, line up and we're going to vaccinate you. Pretty much eradicated that was going on during those times.
It was probably polio.
Yeah, polio. So there's a generation of that, along with, the recent, pandemic of COVID and what have you. Who knows what's to come. So I feel like he's fighting against a lot of hard fought experience in that room, thinking, wait a minute, this vaccination helped, people that during the time when I was living. So I don't know if I can honestly get behind you with this. Experience has always been the best teacher. And I feel like he's up against that right now. He's an outlier.
Well, I think one of the things that is probably on senators' minds this week is the utter disaster of this whole OMB and the budget and the funding freeze and everything else. I think Trump literally thinks that he can do whatever he wants. And given that the Congress, especially the House, seems to be more poised than ever before to say, oh, yes, Master Trump, whatever it is that you want to do, blah, 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 then he doesn't really have any reason to suspect that he would get some pushback, except for this pesky little thing called the Constitution. And when the House and the Senate vote on a budget, it's not, here's $2 trillion, go on ahead and do what you want. It's $2 trillion broken into pieces, and you spend on those pieces. Congress is saying, this is what we need to spend money on. You don't get to say, oh, line item veto, I'm deciding that this goes out, and then I'm just going to do whatever I want with the rest. It doesn't work that way, but he's pretending that it does. And so when that happened and Medicaid shut down and all these different states and immediate lawsuits were filed, and finally there was an injunction put in place, and then they said, well, we're just going to snatch it back. No need for an injunction, except that the press secretary goes out and says, no, we're just taking the memo back. All of that stuff is still happening. And then the judge is like, yeah, but no, it can't. So I guess I didn't have the injunction. So it's really kind of crazy. And yet Vote, whatever his name is, was confirmed. If he had not been confirmed, this wouldn't have happened. Yeah. And I think some of the senators are like, we can't just rubber stamp these folks anymore. Especially when you're looking at somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, who is so clearly compromised by foreign actors that it makes no sense for her to be the director of national intelligence. It literally makes no sense. But we were talking about these freezes. And so today, the first little piece of content that I want to put out is related to some blue skies, whatever we're calling them, the blue sky posts. And they're about... Well, Joy thinks that is not an appropriate term. I, of course, came up using that term. So there's that going on. So this is the first one. We're freezing everything. Oops. We're unfreezing the frozen. Oops. We're refreezing. We're frozening the freezing. We have the best freezer, the biggest, bestest freezing in the history of the world. The best freezing numbers ever. They're beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, freezing. Everybody loves the freezing. Then, this is what happens when you elect and appoint incompetent people to jobs they are wholly unqualified for. Yeah. Yes, and to put a finer point, it's what happens when you elect people who are literally psychopaths. Split the difference. What happens when you put incompetent psychopaths in office? And that's kind of where we are at this point. We've got this crazy, nutty situation. Right. So I don't know how to call it. I don't know what else to really say other than we've got this scenario where these incompetent psychopaths, these sycophants, who are willing to do his bidding no matter what, are ready to kind of try to tear down the country. And that is what is most problematic, that there aren't more senators who have not said, listen, I'm really wondering about Hegseth. You can't undo the vote. But I'm really hoping that there are some senators who are thinking, we've got to pump the brakes on this. This is not working out so well. But until then, what happened? Sorry about that. Sorry, hold on. Sorry. So while you're getting sorted,
can you see me? There we go. I hit something. Sorry about that. Until then, this is what happens. You have the will of the people who have to press back and press harder. And that's why everything turned around the way that it did. Because folks were like finding out that, their Medicaid folks. Folks were finding out they were not going to get, their SNAP benefits. So when things like that happen, that's when the will of the people and their power overtakes what the government is not doing. And I felt like that was a prime example to what we're going to have to do more of until we get a lot more representatives with backbones.
Well, I think, obviously people can't vote now against these things that were trying to be implemented. I'm sure plenty of people called, but again, it wasn't even the folks. I mean, it was a combination of folks. There were plenty of people who were from red states who saw what was going on. I can't get my Medicaid. What's going on? Who probably called their representatives. But at the same time, Democratic lawyers from the ACLU and judges and all sorts of people who are positioned above the quote unquote people, but who have areas of responsibility that have some say in some of these matters. They're the ones who kicked it into high gear. They didn't even wait on constituent calls. By the time the news media was reporting on what the impacts were for this disastrous memo, lawsuits and injunctions and things had already been filed. Yes, there were people who were upset. There were Americans who were upset. But those people don't have any contact with Trump at all. And the people who are actually hearing these comments from normal everyday Americans have to filter very carefully how they present this stuff to Trump. And you can see that that's true because the first thing that they did when they decided they needed to undo this and kind of wind it down is, well, Trump didn't know. This came just from OMB. So the guy who was hand signing every executive order didn't take a look at this memo. That's the guy who.
Well, when you have a chorus of yes men,
write a check. He didn't check this over. Yeah. So it doesn't pass the smell test. It's really kind of ridiculous. But while we're waiting for Joy to come in, I was trying to hold so that we could get into some of the meat of.
Well, let me ask you this real quick. Do you think it was Trump's intention to inflict pain on people by withholding those things that they depend on, such as Medicaid, such as SNAP? That was his honest intention with the freeze?
I don't think Trump has any clue how anything works. And I think he listened to Vote, who said, you said we were going to trim waste. This is how we do it. Let me do this. And I don't think he had it. All those things that come under those grants, he had no idea. And guess what? He's never used any of those programs. He's never taken a student loan. He's never had a Pell Grant. He's never used SNAP or WIC or Medicaid or any of these other things. So as far as he's concerned, everything is just waste. We're just spending too much money.
Close to home.
We're not going to spend any money.
Yeah.
He didn't go to public school. He didn't, he's never had to have free lunch or free breakfast or any of these other things. So he doesn't know. He doesn't have a clue. That's how disconnected he is. It didn't give him a week's worth of pause to say, well, what's really going to happen when you do this? Yeah. Is this the right move? Not even
a moment. Victims were at a 911 when he said that, because, a lot of the monies that they're getting comes from funds like that, especially out at Altadena. And I heard it first thing.
I just don't think he had the vaguest clue. I don't think it occurred to him at all that anybody would be upset, because as far as he's concerned, he's the king and his loyal subjects love him. And so whatever he does is going to be fine. And I think he just now realized that maybe beyond the reach of your golden toilet, that there are some things that will get you into trouble. And probably the thing that got the most traction is a senator who said, you're doing these stunts while you have all of these nominees outstanding. And guess what? My constituents aren't happy right now.
Right.
And I'm just not going to vote for them. It's easy for me not to vote. You don't have any votes to give up.
Yeah.
You need all these votes. So you need to fix it.
government subsidies that keeps these crops planted in these Midwestern states, even in some Southern states, that rely on the subsidies to, so they can give stuff back to the government. All of that was included in that. And
but again, if you don't know, because you
yeah,
don't read,
right.
You don't care. You just listen to this guy from Project 2025, who told you, trust me, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so he
No.
did it. And in the interim, while we're talking about grant subsidies to folks who are on farms and everything else, let's not be blind to the fact that so many undocumented workers in the farm and food service space were scared of ICE.
Yes, indeed.
That folks just didn't show up. Orange crops,
so
grapes, tomatoes.
Yeah. I have a friend. She cleans the house, and she was looking kind of sad last Friday. And I was like, what's going on? And she said, the buses are empty. I said, what do you mean the buses are empty? She goes, everybody's scared. She goes, no one wants to go to work. She goes, people actually want to go back home. I said, where's home? She goes, home. She goes, people don't like this. And this is California, where there's some degree of small protection you kind of feel because, they're still moving around. But she literally said that to me, and I just saw the look on her face. Of course, she's fine. But you're hearing accounts in like different states to where, like, when people are overheard speaking Spanish and they're being taken by ICE because all of a sudden they're speaking Spanish. There was this Puerto Rican family in Wisconsin, and this is verified. They were just speaking Spanish, and there was ICE on them. They mistaken them for being, illegals because they overheard them. They didn't get to be released until they got all the way to the detention center and was able to show their papers verifying their American citizenship, being born in Puerto Rico and what have you. So that is the threat that Latin America at large is living under. I don't care if you were born here or not. If you have that color skin, if you happen to speak Spanish, it's racial profiling 101. What was that guy in Arizona who was doing it a few years back? That Arpaio, what was his name? He was a sheriff in Arizona.
Joe Arpaio.
Exactly. It's his playbook because that's basically what he was doing. So it's understood by the federal government now, and they're all living under that threat. Now, of course, a lot of them are being resilient, acting as though it's never going to come, and hit close to home. But it is. So I don't know how to find out. I can show you. I just don't.
Well, they're finding out.
Yeah. It's so good to see you, Joy.
Hey, y'all.
I had a minimal. You see my blackout beside in here? I kicked my.
You what?
My socket out. Sorry about that. But anyway, so good to see you.
I missed that.
Your boys were holding it down.
I appreciate y'all. Have y'all been checking? Yeah, Mary and Anthony and Vince. Hey, Vince. Good to see everybody in the building again. Sorry I was late. I'm in DC. And the mood here is somber because of the accident. But once we get the conversation past that, the mood here is very much, the fuck is happening? Like, everybody in DC is like, I don't know. Like, it's not people disappearing from like their homes, people disappearing from the job.
Right.
Like, just wake up and guess what? You're unemployed. And a lot of my friends are like trying to tell people, don't take that BS nonsense that Trump's offering about, I'll pay you till September. You go, that's lies. It's all lies. He ain't never paid nobody ever.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the authority to do it.
That's a lie.
Right. Hey,
how
birthday
are you
twin.
saving money by paying people for 8 months of not doing work?
Right.
8 months of severance, and you fired 18 inspectors general overnight with no promise of anything, but you're going to give these people 8 months of foolishness? Now, listen, I'm about to put a picture up. We know it has been doctored. However, Joy and I talked about it, and two things are true. One, this is actually happening, even if this picture is not an accurate representation of what is happening. And two, much better to show a person who is not being deported than to show someone who is actually suffering as a real human being.
Right.
There's a woman who was deported Her husband is a veteran. There is a husband whose wife is Venezuelan, and she was in the midst of trying to get her paperwork together. She was deported. He's talking trash. He's upset. So this is the image that kind of went viral on the internet. And as soon as we saw it, Joy and I were both like, this needs to be the thumbnail of the show. So here it is. A guy in a Latinos for Trump shirt being led away by the police and ICE. Now, we know that that's not a real image. It was a detention thing, but it was a Homeland Security thing. Latinos for Trump is not on the back of the t-shirts. However, I'm calling this, instead of FAFO, I'm calling it LAFO. Latino around and find out, because this is what happened, bro. You thought he was only going after the criminals and forgot that anyone who came into this country undocumented is technically a criminal. Even as to them. Even if you're seeking asylum, they don't care.
Yeah.
You are not a citizen who has gone through the citizenship process, and so therefore you're here illegally, and therefore you can be deported. That's all they see. That's all they care about.
Did you hear the husband of the Venezuelan that was deported, though? He actually said, I just wish I can just sit down and talk to Trump and we can come to some sort of conclusion and, reason this out. So it didn't sound like to me that he regretted anything that he did in getting him in office. It sounded like he just felt like this was a clerical error that was messed up. And his wife got swept up in the minutia of it all. These people are baked in.
Well, he was asking for something to be worked out, but there was no working out being brought to him. So he wasn't expressing regret, and that's fine. While the leopard is eating your cheeks, you don't have to be regretful. You have to be eaten. And that's what it is. So these people, Lord help me, I'm studying Duolingo. And I'll be on walking through the streets talking to Duo, and somebody looks at me and thinks I'm some, light-skinned Mexican dude and try to drag me into the back of a truck. Don't matter that I got a real ID. Doesn't matter that I've been carrying my passport recently. None of that matters. If they want you, they got you.
Welcome to the Black experience.
Well,
because that's literally what it is. We look alike. I've been asked about a crime that I didn't commit, but because I was in the vicinity, you know what I'm saying? It's pretty much how I move through life ever since I've been a grown man. I've never been threatened to be, deported, but I've been threatened to, been thrown in jail or at least
incarcerated. Which is where they all these deported people, if they don't make it, if they don't actually deport them, they're gonna put them in jail and end up having them as free labor as well. But to your point about, this is profiling at its best. I've been telling people since 2016, don't nobody care about where you're from, they care about what you sound like. And that's gonna be the easiest target. Is everybody is Mexican now. If you speak Spanish, even if you speak Portuguese, because Americans can't tell the difference between Spanish and Portuguese. So you speak anything that is Latin-ish, you going to jail or you getting deported. And they don't really care whether you're here legally or not, because you technically are a problem that is solved by moving you away. Yep. And even if you have land and everything else, you think they cared when they pushed all those Native Americans out of Florida on the Trail of Tears, that they cared that was their land? They didn't give a damn. And that president is actually the one that Trump admires most.
Yep. This is literally Henry Gates on the steps of his own house with his hands in handcuffs. This is what that is.
Yeah.
It's laughable, but it's really sad.
It's 1940s Germany. Show me your papers. It's the same thing.
I mean, it's hard to imagine. And I go back to when the election was actually still in process. And I go back to seeing Kamala Harris be cogent and articulate and hopeful and American and saying these things about what is at stake and all these other sorts of things. And then I remember getting to that night when we were doing the election night show and it was looking like everything was slipping away. And now I look at where we are now, and it really does defy imagination that this is where we are. and yet we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep thinking, you know, I don't know. I think it's talkingpointsmemo.com has a countdown. Only 1,465 days left to go. And it's like, oh my God.
So
I can't even.
You won't. If you think we're going to make it to the midterms, you got another thing coming. Like, Hitler destroyed the democracy of Germany in 46 days.
Yeah.
You think he can't do it in 2 years? And it's not, and people are like, well, Trump is dumb. Yes, he is. But the powerhouse behind him is very smart. And they've been working on this for generations.
But we do have defense. I mean, I feel like that judge we referenced earlier before you jumped on, who even the judge who stopped the birthright citizenship, the executive order, you know, judges that still believe in the Constitution. Oddly enough, the judge who actually stopped the one with the freezing of the grants and the loans, that was the one the tie-breaking judges that Kamala had to like get confirmed. I'm thinking, wow, that's sweet right there. I mean, I thought that was just beautiful coincidence. But I do believe that we have a defense, and that might be one of our only defenses. But I believe that these judges that he put in place, those, you know, like I think he put in like just right after Trump was declared quote unquote winner, and he did all those confirmations. I feel like that might buy us a little time to kick cans down the road. How much and how much damage we can preclude it from, I don't know. But there has to be something. I mean, we can't be headed to a banana republic that quick without there being some sort of a rebellion on. Or we can just burn the motherfucker down. Like, are we just doomed? Is what you're saying, Joy?
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't think
she said
I don't operate that way, but I can understand why you would think that, because it feels like that. It does.
So I want to
disheartening.
I want to clarify. Are we doomed? Yes. Am I hopeless? No. Do I think I'm going to weather the storm? Yes, I do. I don't even think I have to leave the country. I might, but I don't think I have to leave the country to do it. This country is going to look very different, and it will be a reassembling of the broken pieces. We might rise from the ashes, but there will be broken pieces and there will be ashes. We're going to go through a time of massive governmental, state, local, federal upheaval as they try to make a play for the end zone to send us all back to, 1820s America. That's what they're gunning for. They're going to make some strides, because at the end of the day, every court ends at the Supreme Court.
Yep.
And the Supreme Court has shown there, it has multiple times in the last couple of years. So it takes away the safety net of, well, at least they're rational, maybe not. And so we can't count on any of that. It may not be as bad as I can, doom prophesy that it could be, but it won't be easy. And so it's going to be a whole lot of trying to figure out how to continue to live in a place that is actively trying to kill you. And that is going to.
Hitler fed his people. You cannot control a starving.
Hitler fed the Germans. He didn't feed anybody else.
But what I'm saying, you can't control a starving people. When people are in desperate need, they turn on their so-called leaders.
Right. And that's what the French Revolution did.
Yeah.
And that's where we're getting to. But the difference between us and the French Revolution is the French had no distractions. And I said this before on the show. The French didn't have a Latin group or a Jewish group or a Black group to blame for everything. They just had blatant haves and has-nots. And so they went right after the haves. They're going to go
soon, you won't be able to blame these subcultures. You won't be able to. When food is scarce in the freaking grocery store, you can't blame Latin people for that. You can't blame nobody but the person in charge.
He just blamed DEI for the crash in DC, bro.
Well, he is going to, but that smear is going to really, really run its course after another month or so. You can't do that. And we'll get back to that, because I have some very strong thoughts on. You can only assign DEI to so many things before people are like, wait a minute, everything can't be freaking DEI. They just can't.
Okay, I will just say this. That premise presumes that people are even going to remember this Black Hawk crash in a month. because they're not going to. What is going to happen is the amount of cognitive dissonance that would force somebody to confront their choice of support of Donald Trump and believing everything that he says. And now all of a sudden, on the basis of them being a little hungry, he's already giving them other whipping horses. Just like with this crash, it's Biden and Obama's fault because of DEI. I looked it up. The crew chief, the only picture I've been able to find of anybody other than the ice skaters who died, the Russian ice skaters, the crew chief on that Black Hawk is a white guy.
Yeah.
So it's going to be not too long, and it will be perhaps some independent media reporters to say, you claimed before any information really come out that DEI was at fault. None of the air traffic controllers associated with this were anything other than white men. All of the crew on the Black Hawk, white men, and the pilot of the American Airlines plane, white men. So where's the DEI?
Yeah.
And by that time, he will have moved on. I don't have nearly as much faith in the American people as you appear to have. They, in Reconstruction, they took from Black people and gave it to white people. When we had to build our own in Tulsa, in Rosewood, in any place that Black people expressed any sort of ability to do for themselves, white mobs came in and did whatever they wanted to and faced no repercussions for it. So
they bombed. People forget that the Tulsa race massacre wasn't just a bunch of white people in the street with torches. They bombed
with
that
planes.
city. They bombed with planes, sanctioned by the mayor of the town. And so,
but did it wipe out the people though? Did it wipe out all Black people?
No. It didn't wipe out all Black people. It wiped out their wealth. It wiped out everything that they had built.
And yet
for
they
20,
started rebuilding. Years. Okay, so guys, get this. Every time we have had any sort of
to the same level that it was, there was no Black Wall Street again.
People don't even know that town existed
for their businesses.
So consider this. Every time we have had a huge piece of legislation or some sort of moment in history that have propelled our culture forward, the Civil Rights Act, what else? Voting Rights Act, things that moved us a little bit closer to the goal. They have always maintained their resistance of getting us to where we are. They have. They've always stayed on the gas. What is our answer for that? We've always had an answer for when times that we're going backwards. Yeah, we suffer the fallout, but we regroup and we keep going again. I don't understand why this time has to be this extended hopelessness before we decide that we fight in us. I get where it's coming from, but how long is this going to last? How long is the 92% going to sit on top of that building and watch the thing burn before we get back in the game again?
Down. Okay, so this is where
when there's no food, we don't eat either.
Yeah, I know that. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
But it's not our problem to fix.
It's not our problem to fix. We cannot fix it because the same rebuild that you're talking about has gotten us nowhere because we continue to thrive, to rebuild, to try again. We watched our collective wealth dwindle over time because we don't come back as strong as we were before. We don't have the wealth. We've lost all of the generational wealth. We lost the houses. We lost the money, etc. But we're still here. A lot more of us are in poverty than should be if that hadn't happened, but we're still here. And so when you talk about the 92% sitting on the roof, watching everything burn, we know that we're going to be hurt as well. We know that. What we're not going to do is stop or protect other people who voted against their own best interests from being hurt. We're going to let you burn.
I endorse that.
That is why I say it's going to be hard for a long time. We're going to be a part of the same tribulation they're going through. We can't not go through it with them. We are there with them as well, but we're going to protect our own. And so I'm not hopeless. As I said a moment ago, I'm not hopeless. I think that the country is doomed. I do. I think that it's going to have to be a whole different new country built from the ashes, but that it requires it all to burn. And I do think that they are going to burn this bitch down to the ground. And I am not going to try to stop them because all that does is end my life. Right. And maybe not physically, maybe just metaphorically, I end up doing something different, but I am going to let them do what they're doing. And when they're done fucking up, then I'll be here to figure it out for me and my people. And so we're doing exactly what has been done before. You know what? They burned this town down. When they burned down Rosewood, those people left.
Yep.
And then a couple of months later, they came back trying to get their land and were told, if you try to come back in here and get the land that you own, we will kill you. And so they stayed gone and they worked their life out somewhere else. Right. And so we've always been able to figure it out. We'll figure it out again. But the idea of, you know, standing in solidarity with people that don't deserve my help, I'm not doing that.
Well,
it gives me a lot of. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, most Black folks have had to live in a situation that was sketchy.
Yeah.
So it's not as far for us to fall. You know,
right.
When I was in college and a lot of college, y'all went through them rice and beans weekends in the last 2 weeks of the month.
Ramen.
Y'all went in ramen mode. Y'all went in you know, drinking or eating cereal with water mode. Black folks been doing it.
Yeah.
Yo, I had cereal with water 2 days ago. What are you talking about?
Well, exactly. So the thing is, you keep talking about those of us who do care, who were harmed when the person that we thought was going to be the best pick. When are we going to get tired? It's not us who needs to get tired. We've been tired. We retired on November 8th. It's the people who made the bad choice who need to feel tired, and they need to feel it, because when it comes down, to your point, I think at some point it's going to get old. My eggs are $9. You said they would be cheaper on day one. My gas is more expensive. Mm-hmm. There's no place for me to rent. My grocery bill hasn't gone down. These were the promises you made. And guess what? My neighbor, who I enjoyed sitting with and enjoyed smelling her make tamales, she's gone now. And she's gone because you scared her. And she told me in tears that she had to leave because of you. I don't like that. I didn't think that was going to happen to her. She's a nice lady. I didn't even know she was undocumented. Mm-hmm. That's where it's going to start making a difference. And another thing that I think may be able to make a difference, and it's going to be interesting to see how it works out, but we were talking about this in the chat. If you are interested, because Target and Walmart and all these other places, not Costco, Costco is still a good place to shop. But if you were interested in actually supporting some of these Black brands that have been dispossessed by these large outlet retailers who, thought they were doing something cute in the Biden Harris administration, take a look at Julo.
Yeah.
Shop. Now, I went on Julo today, and a bunch of y'all has already been on there because a lot of stuff was sold out. So shout out to the people who have helped these Black providers of goods and services and food and healthcare, hygiene stuff. Congratulations on the success of your businesses, and congratulations on all the folks who have purchased through Julo. I got to find me some of these little cookies and some of these other
everything I saw was gone. I was like, damn, I gotta wait.
So, but that's a place, that is something that you can do. Deliberately steer your dollars away from people who have told you that they don't care. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't a big box person anymore because it's just me right now. But I went back to Costco.
Yeah.
I will buy 12 cans of soup from Costco and just not go to the regular grocery store for a year. I have now decided that I am either going to work with some other folks who also need some stuff from Costco, but I'm going back to Costco and loading up my cart, and that's where I'm going to be shopping, because at least I know Costco ain't run by fools.
And that's the way that we're moving. That's the resistance.
Well,
I know it doesn't seem like anything huge right now, but remember we were talking earlier before we even got on. I tell you that I merchandise for different stores, and Target is one of my accounts. And I even received her a couple of days ago. She was like, "We've been slow." And I said, "Why have you been slow?" And I was poking the bear because I knew the answer. She goes, "Well, the boycott." I said, "Huh?" And I left it at that. So it's a slow crawl. We're just having to move differently. Where in times past we say, well, we need to support our own. And that's the rallying cry for what, a good 2.5 weeks. I feel like this time we have just a little bit more teeth to that, because we see just how vulnerable our race is and just how much these motherfuckers just don't want us around unless we're entertaining them or making them come. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you meant that,
It's
and you were
after
right.
dark. That's why I said that. It's after dark.
I remember what I said last week. You were well within the parameters of after dark.
I didn't know. He threw it on me. I was like, oh, it's after dark. I needed what you were drinking.
Since we're in After Dark and we haven't done something quite like this in a little bit of time, given the name of this week's episode, I prepared this graphic and a little commercial. Okay?
Am I going to need a shower?
I don't always eat faces, but when I do, I prefer MAGA. I'm the most interesting leopard in the world. Shout out to Midjourney for helping me create. This was a smiling leopard with a dinner napkin wrapped around its neck, and it put the extra cloak on it, which a leopard wearing leopard print as well as a
That's diabolical.
Whisket with buttons. And when I saw
that's
it,
where we're headed.
Said, oh, it's the most interesting man in the world. That's who it looked like to me. So, I don't always eat faces, but when I do,
I prefer MAGA. Mm-hmm.
So
today feels like January the 81st.
Oof.
It really does. This has been a hell of a month, guys.
It feels like Christmas was like 2 years ago. Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Especially right here in California. I mean, we've dealt with fires on top of what's going on in the world. And I'm like, it's been a long freaking month. Yeah. I might do something reckless over the weekend.
Go for it.
Well,
I'm enabling all recklessness and everything. Do what you want.
So we had Miss Maycene, and I don't know which of our Facebook Sharpies that might be.
Hey, Miss Maycene.
Right. We're going to leave it at Maycene. People need aliases nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. So here is the flight crew. Guess who they're going to pin it on?
The attendant. And that one pilot.
But interestingly enough, the pilot, Jonathan Campos, was a former sheriff. Apparently. Maybe. It's hard to tell. Some of these pictures, maybe not. But this Jonathan Campos is one of the guys.
So I don't know if y'all already talked about this since I was late. Did y'all talk about the fact that the air traffic controllers were understaffed and there was only one there?
Oh, not yet, but I have some strong commentary about that.
And also haven't talked about how Elon Musk forced out the head of the FAA because the head of the FAA wanted to find SpaceX. And so Elon leaned on him and he resigned before the inauguration, and the FAA, the head of the FAA slot was unfilled this entire time. And now they plopped somebody in as an acting head. But of course, his primary loyalty is to Trump. So qualifications be damned. He's a kiss ass. And so now he's in this position. So it's best and brightest, most qualified. You got to have the people with the best brains. Donald Trump couldn't get through the door of an air traffic controller's evaluative exam.
No.
Couldn't get through.
Donald Trump is not smarter than a fifth grader.
No, at all. And definitely not smarter than a celebrity. If you want to watch
the
that
morale among the air traffic controllers was so low prior to this happening.
Oh, yeah.
He had just put a freeze on hiring already an understaffed industry, and he put a freeze. They were like, how the hell are we going to get through this? On top of that,
one guy doing
they made this political decision to fire the, I would feel like it's the Aviation Security Advising Committee. I feel like that's right. Some law. So they were like already under the gun. Mentally, they were like just stressed, like wondering, how are we going to get through this? So for this to happen, you have to connect the dots with the whole deregulation thing. It just has to be. It may not be like a direct, connection, but some kind of way. When you start doing things politically, it kind of goes into the idea something like this is bound to happen. It just does. I hate that loss of life.
That's not even indirect. Yeah, that's a direct correlation.
You think it's direct? Okay.
Yeah, you understaff a critical system, and then you're shocked when the system fails. That's ridiculous. There was supposed to be 2 people that night watching that area, and there was only one, and he was going back and forth because there were not enough people. And like you said, there's a hiring freeze. And not to say that somebody they hired 2 weeks ago would have been able to do this job, but even when you hire new people, it does give you more flexibility around who can be on, who can be off, who can be there for training, etc. And another set of eyes could have possibly prevented this whole thing. And it had nothing to do with DEI and everything to do with the fact that they are understaffed.
And I'm pretty sure he's done that job by himself before and with no incident. But this one time, loss of 60-something lives. And that's all it takes.
All you get from Trump is, well, we'll look into it. Many, many people have flown that many, many times. It was a clear night. There shouldn't have been an accident, probably avoidable. But it's like, dude, you're not helping. Like, this is not what it's about. We really need, it was a horrible circumstance. It doesn't happen very often. 2009 was the last time. And so that would have been during the Obama administration, but also coming off the heels of a Bush administration. So
I mean, if we stick with blaming the person that's in office, that it was on Obama's watch, but even his reaction, his comment to this tragedy as a former president from almost 10 years ago, even that was heartfelt and genuine. And, my heart goes out. Me and Michelle are praying for the people, because he doesn't have any power to do anything, but at least he can express appropriate emotions when a tragedy happens, like a president should. He was still being presidential, even though he's retired, if you will. But you can't expect people to do the impossible. And they're asking people to do the impossible just to save a buck here and there. And it's like, like Anthony is saying here, critical system. You needed 2 people with different needs from different aviation vessels, radio channels, etc. They needed all of that, and they had none of it. So he's technically, Trump is not wrong. It was most likely preventable, but the prevention is not about the color of the person in the office. The prevention is having 2 people in the office. And so I don't want to disregard the pain that hundreds of folks are feeling, and immediate families and a community as a whole is feeling. Because when I landed, they kept showing that. Because I'm in DC now, they kept showing that footage. I'm like, this is gruesome sensationalism. I wish they would stop showing the explosion. Like people's families died in there, So we could probably move on from that, just so we're not adding to the sensationalism. But I mean, we all know Trump's an ass.
Right. So among the other things that we were talking about, we didn't get completely into it, Joy, because I really wanted to hear your thoughts. We were talking about the confirmation hearings, and what we did get was Hegseth for sure, and Vaught. And Vaught, of course, is the architect from Project 2025. Remember Project 2025 that Trump knew nothing about, and yet
isn't Vaught also the name of the industry?
And the boys.
Yeah. Art imitates life.
Yeah. So we got Hegseth, we got Vaught. Today, we have Kash Patel for day 1, Tulsi Gabbard, and RFK for day 2. So it'll really be interesting to see how and what impact this will have on whether or not some of these Republicans are kind of looking at him kind of crazy, like maybe you need to get some people who are actually qualified. Are you really saying that these are the best and brightest that the Republican Party has to offer to America? And that's the question. Like, do you care at all about your brand? You obviously don't from an elected official standpoint, because Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. But when you say, now that you're back in office, and again, this is the same guy who hired all the best people and then fired and disparaged, dozens of people that he handpicked supposedly as the best, including, chiefs of staff, military advisors, Mark Milley, everybody. And you've got Hegseth, a person who has nothing to his military credit, talking about taking a star from a 4-star general behind this. And that's one thing that I think Hegseth might be in for a little bit more than some of the others, because what you don't do with the rank and file of the military is start disparaging the chiefs when you ain't got nothing behind you.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not the way to start.
Right.
And you already had a super checkered record at the veterans group you were working with, and now you're going after a 4-star veteran when you ain't got a tiddlywink on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Right.
But what I know of that culture, they train together as a unit, so they become family. So when you come in and you're trying to infiltrate something that you've taken years to build, it's like this unit that you just can't get through. You're going to have a hard time selling yourself, Hegseth. So I felt like he immediately felt like, wait a minute, these people are more than these. They're here. I got to find my way into this thing if I'm going to try to lead these people, because I'm pretty sure they don't want me. And the way that I'm getting in here is really not popular. So it was a quick about face, if you will. Yeah.
He found out real quick.
And I'm glad the brother was on the front line in those pitches.
Yeah, it'll be really, really interesting to see how the rest of this plays out. In a perfect world, people would realize that Tulsi Gabbard's equivocation and support of Snowden and some of these other things just make her too much of a risk to be the person in charge of all of our secrets. And so she'll get put into the corner, and he'll have to bring up somebody else, and maybe somebody on the committee will say, why don't you take a look at one of these folks?
As much
These
as
are not ambassadors to Ecuador. You're talking about key positions in the administration. You need to be a bit more serious than this.
Well, she's gonna be the second one they sacrifice, and as much as I hate it, but it's gonna because she's a woman and she's a woman of color.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. As much as she doesn't belong there, it's going to be a lot easier in their minds to compute it and get rid of her and find another white man. And that's the part I lament of the whole entire thing with her, even though she's not qualified, wholly unqualified. I hate that she is the one that they're most susceptible to possibly replacing. I feel like I'm talking a whole lot. I got a lot on my mind, guys. I'm sorry.
Well,
my fear is that they're going to pick somebody from Project 2025.
Oh, wow.
Because they've got plants all over the place.
Yeah.
And I mean, Vance is Project 2025's pick for vice president. And if something happens to Trump, Vance is our new overlord. But
well, the OHM guy that we just talked about, the one who did the grant thing, the OHM, whatever that the acronym is, he was one of the co-authors of Project 2025, and he's like over the budget. So they're already in.
Yeah, they're going to continue to do that. And the thing is, some of those folks are actually smart. They're evil, but they're smart.
Correct. And well, I would say they are driven and well motivated by the scope of what their beliefs are. They have a plan and they're ready to implement it. I don't know how smart they actually are in terms of working within the system that they currently occupy. There were better ways to try to go about this. Doing a 2-paragraph memo to shut down the entire federal government doesn't express intelligence to me. You could have, if Chesborough were doing it, or if Eastman were doing it, it would have been different than this guy. This guy just said the president can do whatever he wants. The Supreme Court says so we're just going to go. Well, that's not the way things work. And none of the big moves that they have done so far have been without a hitch. You tried to fire the inspectors general. All of a sudden, Congress and some other people are like, nope, you got to give 30 days. And in addition to 30 days, you have to explain what the problem is. And them just not liking you isn't enough. Now, it may be enough eventually, but you don't just get to fire them. And God help this man if 100,000 people take that deal of 8 months of salary and they don't get their checks. Because now you're a liar.
I mean, he's been a liar.
Well, but now you're a liar, and a lot of
guys?
people are complaining because they took your deal and you didn't deliver.
The people that might take that deal are the folks who voted for him that are in that group. They're like, because when I left Kimberly-Clark, they gave me 9 months salary. And that was enough for me to live off of with, eating beans and rice for 1.5 years because I stretched it. And so there are a lot of people out there that might take that deal. But I got my money. I don't know if they're going to get it. And if you already are out of work, what lawyer are you paying to go fight for you? What class action are you trying to get together? And so, and he doesn't have the authority to do it. And so it could come down to, it depends on how they write those contracts. If somebody signs something saying they resign and the fine print says you cannot sue, they're going to be fucked.
Yep.
So I hope they're reading and paying attention. I mean, who was the guy? One of the guys from Congress did a press conference like, he is lying to you. He does not have the authority to do this. He cannot. Don't quit your job.
Don't quit your job.
They're telling you out loud. This is a mess. This is all a mess. There's actually something. I'm gonna try and paraphrase it if I still got it up. I hope I do. Because I'm in threads and I'm following a lot of people. And there was this thread that came through today, and everybody was like, "This is what we need to know." And it's really about cult building. But there is a young man who said he was studying like dark psychology because he's a psych student. And he's like, I wish more people talked about this. The most powerful manipulation tactic, it isn't gaslighting, it's not guilt tripping. His name is Kadara Rosharan. I think it's a lot of letters. But anyway, I didn't even check.
I'm just playing with the name.
He is, but yeah. I think it's Kadar Rosharan, but he talks about it's not gaslighting, it's not guilt tripping, it's not even emotional blackmail. It's called layering. Psychological layering is first they plant a seed of doubt, then they reinforce it through repetition, then slowly they start to stack new beliefs on top of your old ones so that you start to feel the things that you once knew maybe a little bit uncertain. You start to doubt yourself. And in the long term, this is how abusers work. They make you believe that you are the problem. And ultimately, he goes, you will end up defending your own cage because you will think that it was your choice to be in there, and you will fight people that try to get you out of it. And this is how, when you see people like run back to a cult, it's that sort of mentality. But it's not just from one thing, one time. It's a slow layering. So when we talk about them blaming everything for DEI, that's the layering that they're doing. They plant a seed of doubt, then you hear it over and over again. And so to Tom's point, you won't remember that it was this Black Hawk jet crash. You'll just remember DNI is to blame again.
Right.
And DNI is to blame again. And this is how you create a boogeyman, is through that layering every day, just a little bit more. I told you, once again, like, I'll give you an example. Y'all remember that story that went around about Richard Gere and the hamster way back in the day?
Yeah.
That was never proven, but we heard it so many times that people saw it, and now it is part of pop culture history, even though it never happened. That is layering. Just hearing something over and over.
He always said the same narrative until the point till we were like, okay, here it is, that again. Because sometimes you can hear something so many times until it becomes benign. The whole
but we're on the outside looking in. He's not talking to us. He's talking about us. So when he's screaming about DEI hires, he's talking about us. So our self-preservation kicks in, like, no. Matter of fact, there's some Black people that have fallen for drank the Kool-Aid as well. But by and large, we're looking at that like, this is not our fault. Wait, what are you saying? And so we're jarred out of it. But the people that voted for him are absolutely eating this up. And they're encouraging other people to get on that train as well. And
but what if they're desperate and they're destitute and they're like suffering as a result of these policies, and then they're hearing that DEI is to blame, but in time they still can't afford food, but they're still hearing that DEI is to blame? It's going to have the same effect.
Yeah, they're going to take you out and beat you up because clearly you're the reason. The Haitians, we got to get rid of the Haitians and then it'll get better. Oh, that didn't get better. Well, it must have been the Nicaraguans or the Mexicans or the Native Americans. What are they doing over there? And they will systematically chew through every other scapegoated minority until they run out. And then they'll have that wake up call of, hey, maybe it's these rich bastards that are controlling the government. And that's when you get your revolution by white people. So
And
that's the
what
when
I
I
feel
talk
like
about the
we're on
tribulation
track.
period.
Yeah.
Say what?
I feel like we're on a fast track to that, to be honest with you.
I hope we are. Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna sound bad, and I don't know how to make it not sound bad, but I was heartened by the public support that Luigi got for murdering somebody because everybody was like, yeah, fuck that dude. And I don't wish that he, I'm not reveling in his murder. I am recognizing that people were already fed up and recognizing that more people than I expected to recognize that the rich people are the problem. They got there faster, which gave me hope that maybe they won't come after me and my people because they will see it for what it is sooner than I thought. But there's still going to be those yokels from Appalachia or whatever. No I just picked a place. Don't at me. But there's still going to be those yokels out there that are going to say, I'm the problem.
So
me and my fancy car.
George, this is for you. I wanted to ask you this last week and it just hit me. One, they have all three branches of government, but yet there is this insistence on spewing so much hate and negativity online, even though they quote unquote won. What is it that there's missing that they still have to just be just as nasty as they were as if we were still in the thick of the election cycle? Like, what more do they need? Is it our lack of just being, at their knee that's making them crazy? Like, what is that constant need they have now to where they need to keep doing that? Like, how would you explain that?
So stick with me for a second. Definitely read the book Cast. And if you don't have time to read it, watch the movie Origins. So, So you remember when she talked about the need to oppress in order to maintain status. Yes. They need us to not feel good about who we are so that we will stay in the place that they are trying to put us in. They need us to hate ourselves. And we still out here being proud and celebrating Black History Month and talking about Black Don't Crack and Black Boy Joy and Black Girl Magic. They want all of that shut down. They want women to stop saying I'm the baddest bitch. They want us to be ashamed of who we are so that they can control what we do. And we're not there yet. We're still very much like, I'm still chilling. I was bragging. I'll tell y'all the story later, but I was talking shit in the Delta Lounge earlier because I knew these white folks was listening about how much money I had, but because I know they were looking down at me when I walked in. So let me tell you real quick about my finances. As I was on the phone talking to my broker, they hate that. They hate us to have our head held high. And as long as we still show pride, it's one of the reasons they hated Obama so much was because he was the most powerful man in the world at the time for 8 years. And before they started getting into like the racism, the thing I heard more than anything was he can't tell me what to do. Yeah. He can't tell me what to do. A lot of the MAGA people, including Kanye, really resonated with that idea of you can't tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me, because they couldn't stand it. And so even though they've won, it's not enough for them because we're still shining. They want to kill our light. They want to kill our inner light. So when you talk about like hopelessness, they want to kill all hope. And so I'm not hopeless at all. I'm fighting. I'm spitting mad, but I'm going to let them eat each other for a little while. And if I get bit a couple of times, I remember telling somebody this years ago, if I got to burn my nails off to set you on fire, we both gonna burn. It'll be worse for you than it is for me. I will struggle a little bit. I will have some pain, but it'll be nothing compared to what you're about to go through. And that piggybacks on what Tom was saying earlier. People of color or anybody that has been part of an oppressed group, we know how to be broke. We know how to hide. We know how to make it work. We know how to build in secret. Everybody get you some seeds too, by the way. You'll need them soon. And some water purifiers. We know how to do that. Why people don't know how to do it? Because they've only ever stolen a lot of things. And no, not all. Add that on. No, not everybody. But by and large, they take
Yeah.
And that's not a sustainable model. They don't build. They just buy.
I tell people all about that
Mhm.
over here with us. I was like, the reason why we have black eyed peas in this country because some slave thought enough to put some in his pocket from the homeland on the slave ship. And thus we still eat them every, just about every other day for, some households. So that's just who we are. It's in our DNA.
It's in
we're
our
always
DNA.
thinking ahead. Yeah. We need to do something for the street that's just blackety, 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 black.
What? What do you want to do?
I don't know. We need to. I want to be like.
Wait, hang on.
I'm going to do something crazy.
We just run down the street singing "Black, black on black, oh black on black, black on blackity black."
I don't know.
That's actually a song.
That's where I saw some merch at Target that was Black History Centered, and I was like, I wonder how that made it to the floor. I really did.
Wait, I think I know who this is. We're not gonna call no names, but she was accused by one maggot today of using a thesaurus, being on welfare, losing my federal job, all in response to her calling Trump a degenerate liar.
I was wondering where the thesaurus came in, but it must have been degenerate.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
Thesaurus
is a reach.
And a federal job.
Well, you know, people that lack vocabulary, and because most people don't read anymore, they don't have a big vocabulary. So when you say degenerate, that's too many syllables.
Yeah, right. Degenerate is kind of commonplace.
It is very commonplace to us because we have good vocabularies. We're really freaking smart,
I love my words.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna tell y'all what happened to me in the Delta Lounge today. So I got on a random, like fake Coca-Cola looking sweatshirt and some jeans from Target, a long time ago Target, and some honestly some pretty expensive sneakers, but nobody knows that. So I walk in the lounge. My suitcase is from, where is it from? Office Depot. There's nothing fancy. I look like I look, and I sit down, and the lady next to me kind of, how they kind of, when you sit down, their eyes follow you, and then she kind of scoots in her chair. Girl, bye. Ain't nobody worry about you. And there's nothing but like non-Black people all around me, and I'm watching them watch me because all I'm doing is sitting there playing on my phone, right? I'm minding my business, and I see a couple of, let anybody in here nowadays. Oh, really, motherfucker? Okay, all right, I see you. I'm not going to address any of this. And as luck would have it, because I'm moving, my loan officer called me about the loan application to say everything was great, everything's going fine. But because I have my own business, they want me to put a little bit more down than the 20%. Right. And I was like, oh, what do you need? And so we started talking, and he kind of pissed me off, but I'm talking low. I'm not yelling this out. But so I was like, well, maybe I should just pay cash for this place. It's only $245, And he's like, no, because they want me to have this loan. But I'm like, I could pay cash. Should I rather do that? Oh, no. Okay. So I'm talking to him because he got on my nerves. But now I'm talking money, and I see the white woman next to me.
And
she heard $245,000. She can pay cash. And so now I'm just being an asshole now. So I'm like, no. Well, I can pull $100,000 from one of my accounts. That should be fine. We'll just round it up to 100. That's easy. I'm talking big shit, right? And so I said, let me talk to my broker because, and then I call him, and then I said, hang on, and I said, you know what? Let me call my broker, and I'll call you back. Call my broker, Walter. Now this is all real. Walter is my broker. Walter, I need $100,000. I said, just put it from one of the smaller accounts. I'm talking mad shit. Right. We keep going. I said, no, I don't want to now. I said, because I'm going to Ghana in a week, and I want to get this done before I go to Ghana. So and now I'm talking loud because fuck you. And I'm just really spitting out that I got cash, right? And I see her look at me a couple of times. And I get off the phone with Walter. I call my loan officer back. I was like, it'll be fine. I says, matter of fact, I'll go ahead and do this and this and that too. And that way I'll have a little pocket money. So I'm just going to go ahead and round it up to 150. So I'm talking mad shit. Now, I know that I really have to sell my old place to replenish that money, but they don't know that. They just hear me talking about all the money I got. 150 grand is nothing to me. That's pocket money for me, blah, blah, blah. So when I finished, I kind of like catch her eye. She looks at me and she smiles and I smile at her and everything. And I'm packing up and she goes, if you don't mind me asking, what do you do? I'm a DEI consultant. And I walked away. It was a highlight of my day. Fuck you, woman.
I would have, damn, Joy. I was like, bitch,
day.
I sell drugs.
Right. Same thing as far as they're concerned.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, but
I would
they
have been
won't.
like, she says, what do you do for a living? I mind my business.
That would have been good. Yes, I have so much fun annoying them in the lounge because they really, one of the reasons that Delta tried to change their policies is because popping off rich white people were like, there's too many commoners in the lounge. It's not even about being Black. It's about being poor. And
Right.
So a lot of people that misunderstand their level of class have found themselves on the wrong side again. Like, especially people who are working poor. Anybody that thinks making six figures in today's economy is a flex doesn't understand money,
Nope.
right? Six figures is not what it was in the 90s.
Nope.
Right now, $68,000 is the poverty line in California.
Yes. That is crazy.
If you're not right. If you're not making at least $60,000 anywhere in the United States, you cannot afford a home. You cannot afford rent and food. You cannot afford to have children. And that is the reality for a whole lot of people, right? But then when they think, I make six figures, because we've had that thought layering, right? That thought in our head for generations now, six figures is the goal. So you think if you make six figures, you're doing well, you're rich. You're not rich, you poor. And they're looking down. We had to
come to a moment over Christmas over our family house. I was like, this house is not leaving this family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who has to till the yard or how many times it gets passed down. I said, this house will stay in the family. I said, because we need something. Because those conversations are beginning to happen due to my grandmother, quickly deciding she's ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're all just sort of finding ways to just strategies and just find some sort of just life here with what we have. A lot, the mean in my family for the most part is right at 100,000. And that's pretty good for where they are in Texas.
Yeah. Texas,
outside
they don't
of
have
Texas
state income. So,
yeah.
So I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a special celebration today for my most youngestest child. It is his birthday. Shout out to Cole Bailey.
Aquarius.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. I've never even really thought about that. Because my daughter's birthday is also in January, but he's more cuspy, right? So the start of the month is
Capricorn, I think.
Capricorn, right? Okay, so he's the cuspy Aquarius, and so I want to give a shout out to my son. We are going to go probably eat some teppanyaki or some Korean barbecue tonight because he loves preparing food or having food prepared right in front of him, which is a cool thing for me. There's a great spot that's not too far away from the office, so
that took me some time to get used to, Tom. I ain't gonna lie to you.
What teppanyaki or Korean?
No, going to Korean barbecue spots. I had a hard coming from Texas. Ooh, that was one slow crawl of an acclimation.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. As much as I love dramas and stuff, I'm like, I need my food cooked when I get to the table.
Well, so if you're interested, Jermaine, there's a place in Koreatown called Soul Food. SEOUL food.
Okay.
And they don't require that you prepare all the food yourself. So they have people who will come around and actually put it on the thing for you. So it's a little more, it's kind of like a hybrid. You can cook your own stuff, but some of the stuff that is specialized, there's this special cut of beef that's only between the ribs or some foolishness or whatever. And they come and they'll cut that for you and prepare it for you. And then you can kind of at your own leisure. Teppanyaki is obviously a little bit easier, but you don't have the level of control. The thing we like about Korean barbecue is that you pick exactly what you want.
Right.
And they keep bringing it. You go to Benihana and it's like, here's your $50 of cube chicken and shrimp and that rice that they think is way fancier than it is. And so we'll see. I mean, we're going to go wherever he wants. But since it's right after the Lunar New Year, we're in this kind of, well, technically a Chinese space, but we're probably going to get Asian-inspired food, something from that piece of the world.
Well, before we take off, the last time we were here, you told me to watch The Wild Robot.
Oh,
and I did. And if y'all haven't seen The Wild Robot, it's on Peacock. At least that's where I saw it. It is amazing.
Isn't it?
It is amazing. I mean, I jerked a couple of tears out of me, which is hard to do. But I will say this. Aside from the fact that Lupita Nyong'o is voicing it, it has nothing to do with her. That robot is a Black woman.
Oh, for real?
Because I'm watching the whole movie. I'm like, yeah, this is how we get treated. Save everybody and they cuss you out for it. Yeah, fuck on. And yeah. I was feeling it. I was really feeling it.
When that fox has his moment of clarity in the third act, listen, I was like, so very, very good movie. And again, when I saw the preview of it, I was like, oh, okay, you know. And then I realized that it was Lupita, and I was like, oh, well, let me support it. Just on TV.
And Pedro Pascal is the fox.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. It's a good movie. It's a really great movie. If you have kids, it's a movie that you want to hug your kid as you're watching the movie. I mean, it's a really, really good movie. And it you know, it has the unfortunate consequence of being in a year that Moana 2 and Flow and, you know,
it's got a hard. I think it beats Moana 2 though.
I still haven't seen Moana 2. But I would like for something other than the obvious Disney frontrunner to take an animated feature. And this is a worthy.
It's DreamWorks, so it's got the backing.
Yeah. And
it's better. It's way better. Moana 2 is what it is. It's a sequel. This is a really good movie.
Yeah.
You should go see it, Jermaine. You'll love it.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very good movie.
Is it on Netflix, you say?
No, it's on Peacock.
Okay, Peacock.
But you can probably rent it on any number of things. But another thing I'm about to watch is Nickel Boys.
That's up for Best Picture too, right?
Yes, it is.
So
I will be in their company on Sunday, guys. The guys that are the two lead guys. I forget their names. I'm a member of the African American Critics Association. Okay. And they have an award show they have two, and I go to their luncheon the first weekend of February, and it's going to be this Sunday, and they're honoring Lynn Whitfield. She's going to be there. She has this movie out called Albany Road. Ellis Goldsberry. It's a really good movie. It didn't do so well, so it didn't stay in theaters long. But anyway, she's getting a lot.
I think your mic battery just died.
Maybe. We can't hear you. Oh, babe. But Lynn Whitfield is in there. She's going to get an award.
Whitfield is in there.
So when we talk about layering, tell me you don't still think about a sock full of oranges every time you see Lynn Whitfield or hear her name from Thin Line Between Love and Hate.
Actually, sock full of or bag full of oranges for me is The Grifters.
The Grifters.
Yes, with we
can hear you now, Jermaine.
Yay.
Yeah, you're back. With Angelica Houston and it's not Andrew McCarthy, it's the other one who's got the sister who's also an actor. Cusack.
Oh yeah.
John Cusack, yeah. The Grifters is a hell of also Annette Bening is in it. It's a hell of a movie. But man, them bag full of oranges, they ain't nothing nice.
So I have to say, a week from now, I will be on a plane to Ghana, so I will not be here next week.
Hey!
Oh, you won't be here?
Ghana?
Yep. I'll be gone for 10 days. When I come back, I'm probably going to have a weird accent. Like every time Madonna goes somewhere, she come back with an accent. I'm going to come back. Greetings.
You're going to come back.
We had a really good time, oh.
Not time, oh. Jesus.
You guys don't remember Lynn from Eve's Bayou? That's the only one that comes to mind that like her signature role. Eve's Bayou. That's
she's on a TV show now.
Is she?
Yes.
Yeah, on one of those shows like on B. It's
Greenleaf. Is it? No. No,
Green something. It's a church. She's like first lady or something like that.
That's not Greenleaf.
Is it Greenleaf?
Oh, is it Greenleaf?
I thought Greenleaf went off the air though.
Well, maybe it did. She's on some. Oh, maybe she's on the Black Hamptons.
No, she's not on that. That's Vanessa Bell Calloway.
It was Greenleaf, but it went off in 2020.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
She working.
She was on the last season of not Empire, but
Shy.
The Shy. Not the. Is it the Shy? Yeah. Mm-hmm. The last season.
Right. Okay. So she is working still.
Yeah. Yeah. She's always popping up.
Well, while we're on pop culture, please watch High Potential.
I haven't heard of High Potential.
My fellow rattler Daniel Sunjata plays Karadek. He's the co-lead of the show.
Okay.
Great show. Quirky show. It's with the actor from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. She's the lead. And basically
she's Olsen. I forget her first name. Some Olsen.
Caitlin
Olsen, yeah.
Okay.
She is an extreme. It's basically like she's a female Sherlock Holmes, but less of a dick, kind of. And he's the straight ahead, decorated police detective who's kind of thrown into working with her, and they're kind of at each other's throats a little bit until they start to develop a rhythm. And then it's a transport of a French show, and in the French show, of course, they end up hooking up because, of course. It hasn't happened yet in the domestic show, but they just got renewed. So you'll have a lot of time to catch up. Great show.
I read the synopsis. It sounds pretty good. It reminds me of
very, very good.
What was the show I used to love so much? Psych.
Oh, not unlike Psych, except that it's not tricks.
Yeah. He was like hyper observant, and he was
right. And she's just really, really smart and observant and a little ADHD, and she's got 3 kids, an infant and a male child who's like her, and then a daughter from a previous relationship who is mixed.
Okay.
I think her dad is Latin, from what I can.
He is Latin, but she looks more black than regular Latin. So, but it's a very, very good show. Kind of like if you like Elsbeth, it's spiritually related to Elsbeth, I think, in a way. So also Matlock is back tonight. So if you like Kathy Bates, another series with an excellent female lead, and
has either of you seen One of Them Days? I haven't seen it.
Oh,
you seen it?
Oh, absolutely.
Is it
Go
good?
see One of Them Days.
Okay, all right.
It is the movie that is not as hood as you think it is.
Okay.
I have been told that it's basically kind of like Issa Rae's love letter to Friday.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Which it owes a lot to Friday. 2 best friends in a hapless situation in the hood, trying to make it through one particularly tough day. There is a female Debo character.
Not Deboette.
Deba.
Right.
And great cameos. It's an enjoyable movie. I laughed out loud, and not for the reasons that sometimes you end up laughing out loud at hood rat movie.
Okay.
It's not a hood rat movie, and a lot less use of the N-word than I was expecting to be.
Good.
So I got to give them props and points for that, because that's my thing. Do we have anything else, folks?
Nothing but love from me to you too.
Nothing but love for you too, Jermaine.
I want to thank everybody who is sticking with us on YouTube. This is week 2 of our YouTube only. Also, if you are so inclined, you can look us up as Steel Sharpen Steel on Apple Podcasts. I put up last week's episode, so feel free to do that and invite people to listen. if there are some things that you would like, if there's a particular episode that you think would be good for the podcast, please give me a shout. Let me know. Just give me the name of the episode, and I can download the audio, and then I can upload it. So I'm going to do a little cleanup of this show, just because there are a couple of bleeps and bloopers that I don't want to appear on the
and
podcast.
some blackouts.
But other than that, we're going to keep it rolling. We're very happy. And I have to say this because nobody else brought it up. But in the midst of all of the anti-DEI and people taking things out of curricula, literally the Air Force Academy has cut a portion of its orientation that deals with the Tuskegee Airmen. And my dad is a graduate of the Air Force Academy, and so that absolutely disgusts me. But there is a group of Black educators on TikTok who have created a virtual HBCU Hillman Talk.
Yeah.
And so if you go and you put in the hashtag Hillman Talk, it's all free. But basically what it is you put in Hillman Talk, and then you see the course offerings of these different persons, and then you can follow that person to take their course. And, people are talking about, man, I'm in so many classes, I don't know how to do my job. But these are the sorts of things you talked about.
I heard the same thing.
That
the Air Force had to walk it back.
Yeah.
Oh, they did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, excellent.
Good.
Because I definitely was on them. I was on a couple of boards talking complete trash about it.
Yeah, so, yes to the virtual HBCU, because Hillman is the school we all wanted to go to, right?
I know my parents. So get on to Hillman Talk, and to your point, Jermaine, about what can we do to resist, Hillman Talk and this website. I'm going to put the picture back up. Julo.shop. These are the ways that we can push back. These are the ways that we can support each other. These are the ways that we can service and give service to our mental health, so that as we are dealing with what we're dealing with, every single thing that we are dealing with, these are the sorts of things that we can do. And to keep our peace, to give peace to others, and to support our communities in the way that we were forced to support when we didn't have integration. Mm-hmm. And now that it looks like we're being unintegrated, then maybe it's time to circle the wagons and get back to where we need to be, in our own spaces, taking care of each other, and making sure that we all get through this together. And
exactly.
So with that, I will say, I'm Tom Cunningham.
I'm Jermaine Taylor.
And I am Joy Stevens.
When you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. Come on, guys. I'll help you carry on.
Carry on.
Yes.
You know I was going to do harmony.
Times in our lives, we all have things.
You smoke crack, don't you? Joy, you need to sign off so we can close the show.
And I am Joy Stevens.
And this is Steel Sharpens Crack. Goodbye, everybody.